Hello and welcome to the show. This is Everything Under the Sun. My name is Ty. Hope all of you are doing well. I just point at the microphone as if I was pointing to all of you, so know my excitement when I'm speaking about hoping that you're doing well. I don't know. Anyway, hope y'all are doing well. I said that already. I wrote down talk, and I have no idea what talking points I was planning on talking about, but I guess I'm just leaving myself to my own device. Oh, I went to the beach the other day, and there was this guy. I was sitting there, and I was in my car because winter hit fast. Winter hit here fast. It's like it just completely dropped out of summer. I think just last week I was talking about how nice it was, and now it's cloudy and gloomy and cold. So, anyway, I was at the beach and I'm sitting in my car and I'm watching the waves, and this car pulls up next to me, and it's this guy and this girl. And the guy's in the passenger seat, and they're sitting there for a while, and I'm just like minding my own business. And I turn over and I look, and I see this guy just like, I don't even know where he pulls this out of, but it's this family size box of Cocoa Pebbles, like the Fruity Pebbles, but like the chocolate kind. Didn't need to explain that, but he pulls out this family, like this huge box of Cocoa Pebbles. And at first, I was a little judgy, thinking about the last episode. I was like, are you serious, dude? But then my stomach started to growl, and I was like, you know what? That actually sounds really great, and I wish I had some sacks with me. So they were munching down some Cocoa Pebbles, and I was a little jealous sitting there watching the waves. But I don't know, that was pretty interesting. I've been, it's kind of been a little crazy. I've been trying to go out, still go on hikes and things, but the smoke hasn't passed through California yet. I mean, there's still fires and things going on, so that's definitely something we're gonna have to deal with for a while. But it's just it's a strange time. I've been just doing a lot of reflecting. I think it's just like a time of reflection. I don't know. I don't like wintertime because of the weather, but it's a lot of time where it's like things start slowing down. I think I start to like just reflect about a lot of things that I want for myself, things I want to do for myself, and I think it's just that time of just kind of slowing down and breathing and reflecting and maybe eating some hot soup. But yeah, that's basically what I've been up to. I've been watching Schitt's Creek again. I'm not sure if any of you have been watching that show, I've heard of it, but Schitt's Creek, it's a hilarious show. The new season just came out. I believe it's the fourth season that came out on Netflix, and I'm just rewatching all of them again, and I don't know, it's just something to watch. It's pretty funny, and I keep talking about shows, and I think that maybe I give the idea that I just watch TV all day. But that's actually not the case. I don't watch TV. Maybe I mentioned this before, but I don't watch TV until like the evening time. It's like I have to, my entire day, I cook dinner, and unfortunately, I just have a bad habit with eating really late and also only eating once a day. It's just a terrible thing. And I end up eating or starting to cook around like 7:30, 8 o'clock, so I don't start eating until like 9, 10 o'clock sometimes. So that's about when I like start watching TV as well. And so I have about like an hour or two of, media watching, and then I go to bed and I start my day all over, just doing something else. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. So when I talk about shows, I think it's just more of the idea of just warming people up to, starting the podcast and doing other things. I think many people may be distracted by the presidential debate that happened between, the last episode and this one, and that's definitely that was something. Yeah, I mean, I feel like many people have the same sentiments as myself as we're thinking about that debate that happened. So, I mean, there are two more that are coming up, so I can only imagine how those are going to play out, but we'll see, we'll see how that turns out. So, anyway, hope all of you are staying stress-free as much as possible, taking care of yourself, loving yourself, connecting with others as much as possible as well. And yeah, I think we're going to get going with this because today's topic is pretty interesting, and that's what that is. So this is the box. Thank you for those that are sending topics in. Everything.somepodcast@gmail.com. Send those in. You can send one word, just send, type in the email, just send one word and then send it. I think that would be hilarious. Just one word topic. Or you can go into detail. You can send your topic and then your thoughts about the topic that you want to hear. And, that would just, I guess, give me some direction as far as just where you were thinking in terms of that topic. So send those topics in, short, long, whatever it is. Everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. I'm always happy to hear any questions or comments or just suggestions that may be had. So I just pulled a topic out of this box, gonna see what that is, and I'm almost ripping this paper up. The box, I need to refill it and let all of you know what's going inside because there are a few topics that I haven't mentioned. So, this next topic that I just pulled was choices slash decisions. And I mean, hell, we always have to make choices, we always have to make decisions almost every single moment of our life. Whether it's, you wake up in bed and you're like, should I hit the snooze again and just go back to sleep, or should I get up and start my day? That's a decision. It's something that we're always doing constantly, whether big or small. And, sometimes those decisions get to a more critical point where it means the liveliness of, what we have, what we want, what we dream of, what we aspire towards. And those are definitely big choices that we have to make. So that's topic for next week, and the topic for this week is language. So when I pulled this topic last week, I was like, what? I didn't know exactly where I was going to go with this, but as I thought about it more, I was still very confused about where I wanted to go with it. So I went on the internet and I just kind of wanted to see just what is this idea of language, because language is so broad. It's kind of like these things that we just have and we don't think much about it. We don't think much about the fact that it exists, yet it dominates our entire life. It dominates our entire well-being. And language is one of those things where it's like it's there and it's very pervasive, and it's almost like part of just being human. I mean, I believe that that's part of being human. I mean, like, we have developmental milestones that are based on how well you're developing your language, how well you're speaking. Like, there are kids that are, they go to their pediatrician and it's like, how many words are they saying? Like, are they cooing? Are they making sounds? Are they, doing these different things? And language is a big part of those milestones, determining how developmentally sound they are, how well they're meeting, different levels of development. I think I've said development so many times in the past few seconds, but it's crazy how just like language is so part of who we are, and it's something that's like it's been around for ages. I mean prehistoric times, when I mean, I don't know if humans were around like prehistoric times, but whenever humans, Homo sapiens, like first emerged and started coming about, like there were like sounds and things that are being made. So that's language, that's communication. So I think when we think about language, I think there's also that the idea of communication that goes hand in hand, because that's what that is. Language is a basis for communication, and we have so many different levels of language, so many different forms of language and communication, that it's really fascinating that we don't really talk more about how important language is. I mean, stories are being passed down from generation to generation because of the words that are being spoken. The language that you speak, we spoke about this in the previous episode of influence. Well, the 2 episodes ago of influence, where you are in an environment where whatever you're raised to speak, you're going to speak that language. So developmental milestones aren't even the beginning of everything that language provides for us. I mean, language is something that's so, again, ingrained in our lives, that everything that we know to this point, all the knowledge that we've acquired is because of language. I mean, like, historically, there are things that are written in like hieroglyphics. There are things that are written in like cave drawings and things like that, and they're interpreted into words so that other people can kind of get this idea of maybe what was going on in that time, maybe what was being said in that time, or what was going on. And the world is getting so vast, and the advancements in technology are growing so exponentially, that language and the translation and the movement of words and communication and ideas, it's something that's becoming so much easier in this day and age. And I think with that, we're really in like this crazy point in just like human history. Like, it's something that's never happened before. We're in this crazy place of human history where the world is able to reconnect with each other through various means. I mean, like, there are apps where you can download the app, you can speak your native language, and it will translate and then audibly speak the other language in which is the person that you're trying to speak with. So there are so many opportunities and so many advancements that allow us to communicate with one another. And I think with that, we have to hold language to a higher regard in some degree. I mean, like, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do. But for me, that just kind of like makes me kind of think about it in such a different light, because it's like, now that I have the ability to communicate with anyone in the world, what do I wish to communicate? And that's the biggest thing, because communication it allows us to grow. It allows us to connect. It allows us to share ideas and thoughts and values, and really develop ourselves even more. I mean, communication is the basis of all the relationships that we have. I mean, even the intimate relationships that we have. When you're with a partner, you communicate with each other your needs, your wants, your desires. And working with certain individuals, like just doing counseling, working with different individuals, there is a huge lack of communication that arises when there are problems in a relationship. And it's really just that communication where it's like maybe that person doesn't know what they want. Maybe they do know what they want, but they don't know how to verbally express that, or maybe physically express that, or whatever it is like that's being needed in that situation. Communication and language is something that's so important. And have you ever been in a situation, and I may have mentioned this before, have you ever been in a situation where you have a really close friend or maybe your partner or someone, and you ask them how they're doing, and they say, yeah, I'm doing all right, but then like they're moving in a different way, maybe the tone of their voice is a little different, and that it gives you that indication that maybe something's not okay. And then you ask and you push a little further, and then maybe they divulge this information that's been weighing on them for some time, or maybe they express something that's been on their mind for some amount of time that they haven't been able to express in some way or haven't wanted to. And that's something so big as well, where it's like as we communicate with others, we not only understand what others need, but we also understand what we need. Because through other people, we have these experiences, we have these interactions where we're talking back and forth, where we're sharing thoughts and ideas and emotions. And we start to understand more about ourselves. We start to have more of that communication with ourselves, that self talk that's telling us, okay, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. We have that communication with other people as well, where it's like, okay, this is not what I want, like, and we have to communicate that with other people. And I think that as we start learning more about like the ways in which we communicate and the things that we want to communicate that we don't communicate, we start understanding more about ourselves. And I think as we understand more about ourselves, we grow more. And I think that's another big thing about language, is that like it allows us to grow in so many ways, whether it's growing intellectually by reading or listening to lectures, or whatever it is, or just exploring different things that people are putting out into the world, or it's that internal growth that's happening because we're taking all that information in and we're creating a truth that's right for us. But it all uses language. In your own head, you have a voice that's speaking to you in your head. And I mean, it may sound like you, it may not sound like you. I actually I've played around and I've actually made the voice in my head have an accent. It's like something that you have to actually like physically try to do. Like it's not something that just like, I just like naturally have an Australian accent in my head. It's just like something where it's like, okay, I want my thoughts to be Aussie themed, so I'll like throw an Australian accent up in my head. So it's kind of crazy, but it's fun because language is fun. And I think that as we kind of work with ourselves and are with ourselves more, we're allowed to have fun with ourselves. We're allowed to communicate in the ways that we want to communicate. And as we learn the words to express this, ethereal mind that we have, this kind of like intangible idea of who we are, as we create the words to better define that, we understand ourselves more. And I think something so crazy too about language is that we all have mind. Our minds are thinking all the time. But there are some times when we don't know the words to express, to say something, or to corroborate with what we're feeling, like we don't know the words to express to for that. And I think that something so amazing is that we all start at that base level of not being able to express our needs, even as infants. Like before we even have language, we have needs, but we're crying, we're doing other things, we're doing emotion. So there's still language that's happening there. But as we develop language more, we start being able to take those words, those intangible ideas, those intangible thoughts and things that are just like tumbling around through this like mind that we have, and we're communicating ourselves through that. We're creating language to identify who we are in different ways. And as I was thinking about this, it blew my mind because it's really fascinating when we think about it. Like when you truly think about it, all of everything that you are, it's within you. It's within you, and the only way to get that out and to express that in some kind of way is to put it in some form of language. Again, whether that's dance, like maybe it's body language that you want to do, maybe it's written language, maybe you want to write poetry, maybe it's just like language through expression, and you want to do art. But there are different ways in which we can express the things that are within us. But language and communication, that it's the basis of all of that. We would not have the development that we have without it, or at least I can't imagine it without it, because that's all we've ever known. But as far as I see it, and like how intertwined languages and everything that we have and everything that we are, I can't really see how we could really move forward unless, I mean, like telepathy became, the main form of communication. But even then, I'm not going to go into that. But the idea is that like language is something that's so intertwined in everything that we do, and like it blew my mind as I was thinking about this topic, because again, like I was saying in the beginning, I didn't really know where I was going to go with this idea of language. But as I started seeing how really enmeshed it is in everything that we do, in every single thing that we do, it gives a greater meaning to me, and it makes me think a little more expansively. And I think just in that's growth. Like I was reading articles, I was reading these things. That's language. Those are different thoughts and ideas of other people that maybe it's being expressed to me, and now I'm like, oh yeah, like that is right. Like we can share ideas, we can connect ideas, and we can understand more about ourselves through those ideas. Because have you ever had someone that spoke something, that said something, and you're like, yes, those are the words that I didn't know how to express to myself. Those are the words that I didn't know how to say to describe this thing, and you said those things. Like I've had that experience before where it's like, yes, like that's actually it. Like I could not find the words to express like feeling I was having or a thought I was having, and someone else experiencing something similar puts those words to it, and I'm like, yes, I feel that. I feel like that is what I'm experiencing, what I'm trying to communicate. So through other people, we can find the words to express ourselves better. We can find the words to understand ourselves better, and just kind of be with ourselves better. So as we work through our self-reflection, as we work through these conversations with other people and understanding more about ourselves through whether it's music or spoken word or poetry, these are all different facets of language, and it's all different ways in which we can be with one another and understand one another in different ways. I spoke about this in the music episode, but music is something that's so big for me. Like I love music. Music is something that speaks to me in so many different ways, and I know that this is the same for many people, where you can be in a certain mindset or a certain mood, and you just want to listen to music, and maybe the music says certain words that speaks to you. Like you feel like you've had that experience, or you feel like you are in that same mood, whether it's you're listening to some pumped up music and you're ready to go out and party, and you're like, I'm having fun, and like the lyrics are like all in line with that. Yeah, like that's perfectly great. But then there are also those times when like you're feeling something deeper, and you turn on that track, and it's like saying all the words that you like, that are meaningful for you. And sometimes that's all that matters, is like to hear something that has meaning, that connects with who you are and what you're feeling. And I think that that's something that's big about language, is that like it does provide this connection. And whether it's a connection with other people in our immediate surrounding, or just a connection with ourselves on a deeper level, that we start understanding ourselves a little more. And and I don't know. I think that's just really fascinating and amazing. So as I spoke about earlier, there are different types of language. There's oral, there's written, there's body language, and something I mean, that's just a little side note. There's this thing called an aphasia, or aphasias, and there are different types of aphasias. And this is something I learned through just my time studying psychology, and it was something that's always interested me because of the idea of what it is. I mean, like aphasias. Well, I'll first say what aphasias are. So aphasias are a loss of ability to understand or express speech caused by brain damage, usually. And this is just like direct dictionary reading that I just did. And most times that brain damage is like a stroke or something like that that would cause one of these aphasias to happen. So there are three main types of aphasias, and the two that I knew about, that I studied, I didn't know about this third one, but the two I knew about was Broca's aphasia, Wernicke's aphasia, and the third one I didn't know about was anomic aphasia. And Broca's aphasia, essentially, I'm going to be reading this directly from this. So Broca's aphasia, also known as expressive aphasia, is when people find it very difficult to find and say the right words, although they probably know exactly what they want to say. People with Broca's aphasia may only be able to say single words or very short sentences, although it's usually possible for other people to understand what they mean. This can be very frustrating. I can imagine that. I mean, imagine wanting to say something and knowing what you want to say, but you literally can't find the words to say it. Like, it's like you're just like missing. You just can't think of the words. And these aphasias are something they fascinate me because it's literally not like an inability to understand language, or it's not like you lack the comprehension. Like, it's like you've gained language acquisition up until this point, but there's this instance that just causes this haywiring, like this neural disruption that just like makes it so that you are just unable to properly communicate in these forms of language. So there are different features of Broca's aphasia. Severe reduced speech, often limited to short utterances of less than 4 words. So like you're trying to get out what you want to say and you can only say 4 words of that sentence. Like, can you imagine me trying to do this podcast and the entire time I'm trying to come up with the words to say, I'm like pausing and like saying like every other word or like something like that. I mean, like, I doubt that would even be in that specific order, but it would just be like, trying to really grasp onto saying what I want to say, but it can only utter like 4 words that may not even fully comprehend what I want to say. So severe reduction in speech, limited vocabulary, clumsy formation of sounds, difficulty writing, but ability to read and understand speech. So you can read and understand speech. You can hear what people are saying and understand it. And maybe that other person can say exactly what you mean to say, but if you tried to say that back again, you wouldn't be able to. Like, it's this crazy thing. So that's Broca's aphasia. Then Wernicke's aphasia is a little bit different. Wernicke's aphasia, or receptive aphasia, is when someone is able to speak well and use long sentences, but what they say may not make sense. They may not know what they're saying is wrong, so they may get frustrated when people don't understand them. So imagine like me just speaking incoherently, and I'm trying to say something. I just thought about this situation in undergrad. So, I mean, don't judge me for this. I was in undergrad. I was very young and I drank a lot. And so I was with some friends and we did a case race. And for those of you that don't know what case races are, it's basically what it sounds like. It's you buy a case of beer and your friend or whoever else is doing the case race buys a case of beer and you just keep drinking, and then it's a case race. So whoever finishes their beer first or drinks the most beer, like usually like you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, like I still have 3 beers left. I don't have any beers left, so I win, kind of thing. It was a terrible undergrad game because we had nothing better to do. So I got really drunk. We did this case race. I went out to a car of these people I met with a friend of mine, and we were just like hanging out in there. And then I started getting like dizzy, and I started getting the spins. Okay, I guess I'm gonna be honest because this is, I smoked a little pot. It was my first time smoking weed. And I smoked a little bit of pot, and it was out of a Mountain Dew bottle because, I was 19 years old when I first smoked weed. And so I smoked and I hit it out of this Mountain Dew bottle, and the only thing I remember is exhaling. And this is again after the case race. Well, we're still like mid case race, but we finished a lot of the beers. So now I'm getting the spins. I I feel like I'm gonna throw up. So like I open the door, and this the guy in the front seat is like, close the door. Like, I guess it's like they were trying to like hotbox it. So I'm just like feeling like I'm gonna throw up. So I open the door again, and they see me throw up. But this time like I throw up, and it's like halfway out the car and halfway in the car, and it was just really terrible. But afterwards, I literally could not, like, I think I just like collapsed, but like I was still conscious. I was still like aware, and I saw everything that was going on. They helped me out and like like got me out of the car and stuff like that, but I could not speak. And apparently, like, in my head I was saying I'm okay, like everything's fine, like I just threw up a little bit, I'm sorry about the mess, all this other stuff. And I didn't realize until the next day when they were telling me, they were like, yeah, like, it sounds like you were saying something but you didn't make any sense. And I was just like, I guess I was just saying blah 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 blah, blah, like just like making these weird mumbling sounds, but in my head again, like I was saying exactly what I was just saying, like where I was like, yeah, I'm fine, like sorry about that and all this other stuff, but I wasn't making any sense. So as I think of Wernicke's aphasia, that was a kind of weird sidetrack, but as I think of Wernicke's aphasia, that is what instantly popped in my head. So anyway, word dysphagia is when someone is able to speak well and use long sentences, but what they say may not make sense. They may not know what they're saying is wrong, so they get frustrated when people don't understand them. And features of this are impaired reading and writing. So, unlike Broca's aphasia, you wouldn't be able to like truly be able to read and write correctly. There's an inability to grasp the meaning of spoken word. So when people are speaking to you, you may not really be able to understand exactly what they're saying. And there's an inability to produce sentences that hang together. So you may just be like, again, like speaking incoherently. So you may say like, it's like, yeah, I walked to the store the other day and that fire truck went by and started putting out the fire. I don't know. I guess that sounds kind of coherent in some kind of way, depending on how it is. But I'm bad at making examples, but you get the idea. And the last thing is the intrusion of irrelevant words in severe cases. So, like, maybe just like some random word just pops in, like duck, in the middle of that sentence when you're talking about going to the store or some shit like that. And the last one is anomic aphasia, which was one that I didn't know about. And this one is an inability to supply the words for the very thing that the person wants to talk about, particularly the significant nouns and verbs. Another feature of this is speech is full of vague expressions of frustration, which I'm not really sure what that means, and a difficulty in finding words in writing as well as in speech. So, I mean, it seems like this is one that you just like, you really can't like just find the words to say. So it's like, yeah, I was talking to, like in you're trying to think of the name like Sally, or talking to my dog or something like that, but you just can't like, you can't find the word, or maybe you can't find the word talking. I was with my like you just like really just can't find the words because it says significant nouns or verbs. So my dog or Sally or whatever would be, in talking, those are significant things, part of that sentence. So I'm guessing you wouldn't have understanding of that. There's also this other one that's in this article, and I'm reading it from the thing, and I guess I can link that if you want to read this yourself. But I'm basically reading the whole thing here. The other one that I guess wasn't in that is primary progressive aphasia, which is one that again I didn't know about. And primary progressive aphasia is a condition where language capabilities become slowly and progressively worse, leading to a gradual loss of ability to read, write, speak, and understand what other people are saying. And the deterioration with this can happen slowly over a period of years. So it's definitely something that's going to just keep happening, which, I mean, just sounds super scary. So, I mean, that was kind of a sidetrack, but aphasias, that was something that's so interesting when I was just going through different psychology classes. It's something that kept popping up, and I was always just very, very interested in it. And again, aphasias are, they don't happen just randomly. Like, you're not going to just randomly get an aphasia. It happens usually if you have some kind of brain damage. So maybe like a car accident or a severe stroke that's causing, just like an inability to have proper functioning in that part of the brain of language acquisition and production. So that's just something interesting. And I don't know, just thinking about this idea of language, the loss of that language, it's something that is literally chronic. It's something that's like, it causes an inability. And the thing is that like language is so important that even individuals born without the ability to speak or hear, it's like there's sign language, and again, body language. There are individuals with autism or on the spectrum in some way that maybe don't have verbal communication, but if you're close to them, if you understand them, if you're with them and you know them, then they are communicating, and they can communicate their needs very well. They can communicate their needs, just as good as anyone else, but you have to be in tune with how they're expressing those needs. And I think that's something that's really big about communication. Just like if you're speaking English and someone else is speaking French, you have to find a way to, find some ground in which like you're able to communicate. So if you were in dire need to communicate, this reminds me of back when I was in Costa Rica. I was in Costa Rica for a little bit, and this is a little sidetrack story. I feel like I'm sidetracking a lot in this, but there was this time we went to Costa Rica and we stayed in this little tree hut thing. It was like, it was actually pretty big. It was like 3-story tree house like hut thing. But this school from the University of Costa Rica came, and they were also like on a little adventure, and we had this little like party little thing in the lobby of this treehouse place, and they provided like cervezas and things like that, and it was really fun. But there were a lot of people from the university that didn't speak English, and there were a lot of people that were in my group that didn't speak Spanish, which was really just interesting, because like in the initial stages when everyone just started like drinking and stuff like that, everyone was separate. There was no one communicating with each other outside of their own group. as the beer started coming, as like comfort started building, people started communicating with one another. And I remember I love to people watch. I love to sit back and just like watch people be people and humans and stuff like that. And sometimes I'll interact and engage and stuff like that, but I like to watch because just watching humans is really fascinating. But so I started watching this interaction happen, and these people that spoke no Spanish whatsoever, and these people that spoke no English whatsoever were laughing, dancing, enjoying each other's company, communicating with one another, even though they did not speak the same language. And that was something that was just really eye opening for me, because that made it very true and very like real for me that language is not necessarily contingent upon oral language. Like there's this body language. There are other ways that we communicate that is obviously much more substantial than just the words we use, because this interaction happened despite no one really actually speaking words to each other. Like, I mean, there were some people speaking Spanish to, like people that like didn't speak Spanish, and the other people speaking English were speaking back to in English, like not speaking Spanish, and there was still laughter happening, whether it was laughing at, the inability to speak, or just like whatever it was communication was happening, connection was happening. And that is something that's so amazing, and something that makes language so substantial when it comes to just human life. Like, us as humans, communication is something so so important just for everything that we do. And it's something that, like, I guess we take for granted in so many different lights. And as we think about just the expansiveness of language, I mean, of course we can use body language to communicate our needs and our wants when we go out into the world and explore different things and different cultures and different backgrounds. But also, we do live in this age where it's like we are able to learn different languages, we are able to pick up different languages in different domains. And I think that's something that's also so valuable to have, is like just to embark on a journey to learn a new language. And now it's not something that like everyone has maybe the practical time to do, as far as just in their day-to-day life to just pick up another language. But at the end of the day, I mean, like, how much time does it really need? Like, I have this program called Pimsleur. Many of you may have heard about it. It's an amazing program because it teaches language in the way that we're meant to learn language, like how we learn language through context, whether, I mean, most times we learn language as a kid, and we learn no, we learn yes, we learn mom, pop, and, we learn these different like small terms, and then we start putting them together into like different forms of communication. Now, Pimsleur does the same thing, except it acknowledges the fact that you're an adult, and it's not going to say, just like these simple things, but it uses context to help to understand the language. So it's like you're not just like reading off a book and repeating certain words. You're actually applying these words in different contexts and then reapplying them in other contexts. So it's like, it's very progressive, interesting program. Pimsleur, check it out. It's really amazing. But learning a new language can be something that's so fascinating, where it not only engages your mind, but it allows you to go out into the world with a little more confidence in knowing that you're able to communicate in a different domain than your original surroundings. And it allows you to make greater connections. Like, imagine meeting someone that you would have never met or never communicated with or connected with. They speak another language. It's like, by you learning that other language, you have the opportunity to connect and have those meaningful experiences with someone that you may not have ever come across or ever met or ever been able to communicate with. I'm not finding the words to say this the right way, but it's something that can be so beneficial. And I mean, there's also just like so many things that can come about from learning another language, like more opportunities for jobs and work, higher pay. I mean, like translators and, like people that are doing like business negotiations in different languages, they are making a lot of money just by knowing that other language. I mean, there are so many jobs that they ask you, like if you're proficient in another language. I mean, a lot of times it's Spanish because, I guess being in the United States, Spanish is like a big one that's good to know. But just knowing different languages can allow you to just have a better comfort when communicating with others outside of your own culture. And the funny thing is, or the interesting thing is, if you learn another language, it actually causes your mind to work in a different way. It allows these neural connections to start to create new neural pathways, create new ways of communicating. They've actually done studies with kids from, different backgrounds that spoke multiple languages, and they realized that individuals that spoke different languages, they actually had just a higher cognitive abilities, and not necessarily like they were smarter necessarily, but just the way that their mind worked allowed them to not only speak those different languages and understand different ways of communicating, but it also allows them to pick up different languages faster. So even as adults, it's a little more difficult. Maybe it's a little more challenging, but once you learn another language, it actually does make it a little easier for you to learn a third language. So that's just maybe a benefit. You can start learning multiple languages. My goal is to learn as many languages as possible. I feel like I love language. I love just the ways that people speak, and I also just like love communicating. I also don't like being out of the loop in certain things, or like unable to understand. There's so many times that I've traveled that I would hear conversations and not know what's going on, or not be able to communicate properly the things that I want for myself, whether it's speaking to like someone in a store or someone that I'm trying to find directions in some kind of way, and it gets very frustrating. So if you are a traveler, if you are someone that loves to just like be in the world or connect with people in different ways, learning another language can be something that's just so much more expansive. There's an article that's the top 10 reasons to learn language, and I can add that to the Instagram page when I post about this post. I'm so bad about posting posts. I mean, like, you all have probably recognized that. It's been 2 weeks since what was that? The influence episode, and it's been 2 weeks, yeah. And I think I just posted something recently about the episode itself. So, yeah, it's just something if you're interested in looking it up. I mean, it's nothing special. Top 10 reasons to learn languages, and it just gives all these different reasons. I mean, some of which I've named: ability to communicate, jobs, and whatnot. But there's definitely some things that definitely motivate me to want to learn more languages and just like kind of do that. I think sometimes we need that kind of like push to re-engage us in that gear of wanting to do something that we want to do, and sometimes we just need that external motivation in some ways. But yeah, so that's an article that I will link. And yeah, I mean, this whole idea of language, I think it's very expansive, because language is everything that we have. If you look around the room that you're in, you see words, you see labels on things, you are able to read them and understand them, and that's language, but it goes so much further than that, because like not only are you reading those things externally, but there's this mental thing that's happening within you also that's helping you to understand yourself a bit more. That's helping you to know yourself a bit more and in your place in this world. But I'm not really sure if I went in the direction that the person that suggested it wanted me to go in, but I think that's the challenge of, or like the game of just putting one word and then sending off the topic in that way, because then then I kind of have free range as to where I'm going to go with it. And I think like with this topic, just doing all that reading, reflecting on my own of just like what that meant for me, it was just really enlightening. I thought this was actually a really fascinating topic as far as myself. I'm not sure if I expressed the excitement that I had or the interest that I had based on the words that I expressed, but overall it was a interesting topic. I hope this was something that maybe was interesting for you as well, or maybe it's something that you've thought about before. I'm not really sure, but if you have any ideas or thoughts or concerns or ideas or additions that you'd like to add or whatever to this podcast or anything else that's been spoken about, then you can email that to everything.sunpodcast@gmail.com. You can go to the Instagram page at everything.sunpodcast. You can join the Twitter page at everysunpodcast, or you can join the Facebook group at Everything Under the Sun with Ty. So yeah, rate, review, subscribe, share with friends, communicate with friends, share some language, share some love, share some ideas, and that's all I got. I love you all, and I will see you next time.